The anger in Israel has reached a boiling point. It's been nearly a year since a shocking attack by Hamas killed more than 1,400 people in Israel. There is still no word on at least 100 hostages who are still in Hamas's captivity. And the brutal murders of 6 hostages has brought the country to a breaking point. After Israel Defense Forces recovered the bodies of 6 hostages killed by Hamas in Gaza, protests have only been surging across Israel. Families of the hostages said they could have been returned alive in a ceasefire deal. The youngest and most recognizable among the hostages was 23-year-old Hersh Goldberg-Polin, who was an Israeli American. Hersh was at the Nova Music Festival, which was targeted by Hamas. He hid in a bomb shelter and lost his arm when Hamas terrorists lobbed grenades inside the building before being captured by them. Just 10 days before he was found dead, Hersh's parents made an emotional appeal at the Democratic National Convention.
This is a political convention. But needing our only son and all of the cherished hostages home is not a political issue. It is a humanitarian issue.
Hersh, if you can hear us, we love you. Stay strong. Survive.
24-year-old Eden Yerushalmi was working as a bartender at the Nova Music Festival. When Hamas terrorists attacked, she was on the phone with her sister for at least 4 hours. Her last words were, "They have caught me." 40-year-old Carmel Gart was kidnapped from her home in Kibbutz Be'eri. Her parents were killed in the attack. 33-year-old Alexander Lobanov was working as a bar manager who had helped evacuate people from the Nova Music Festival before being abducted himself. His 5-month-old baby was born while he was in captivity. 27-year-old Almog Sarusi was at the music festival with his girlfriend, who was killed in the attack. 25-year-old Ori Danino was kidnapped from the Nova Music Festival while driving back and trying to help others to escape. The Israeli military found the bodies of the 6 hostages in an underground tunnel in Rafah in southern Gaza. IDF claimed that the hostages were brutally murdered by Hamas shortly before security forces could reach them. The autopsy suggests that the hostages were killed 48 to 72 hours before the bodies were found. A forensic examination found that all 6 hostages were shot multiple times from close range. According to reports, Hamas killed the 6 people over concerns that a hostage who was rescued from a nearby tunnel recently would divulge details about where the other captives were being held. Tens of thousands of Israelis took to the streets in one of the biggest nationwide protests since the outbreak of Israel's war on Hamas. Protesters in Israel say Prime Minister Netanyahu has not done enough to secure a hostage deal with Hamas. Hamas blamed Netanyahu for the deaths of the 6 Israeli hostages, saying they could have been released to their families in a real exchange deal while they were still alive. Netanyahu has been repeatedly accused of stalling a ceasefire deal for his own political gain. The far-right ministers in Netanyahu's coalition government have been fiercely opposed to any kind of a deal. Many of them have threatened to leave the government if Netanyahu agrees to the deal. But this has driven a wedge in the Israeli government. Defense Minister Yoav Gallant accused his government of prioritizing control of the Philadelphia corridor over a deal to free hostages, calling it a moral disgrace. The deaths of the hostages is also impacting the presidential elections in the US. Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump blamed President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris for the deaths, saying they died due to complete lack of American strength and leadership. Joe Biden's months-long push for a ceasefire and hostage release deal is facing renewed urgency.
We should end this war. I think we're on the verge of having an agreement. It's just time to end it, time to finish it.
According to reports, the US has been talking to Egypt and Qatar about the contours of a final take-it-or-leave-it deal that it plans to present to the parties in the coming weeks.